The silver moonlight cascaded through the crystal dome of the grand pavilion, bathing the royal banquet in an ethereal glow. Princess Lam Min-an stood by the ornate balustrade, her slender fingers tracing the intricate silver patterns that depicted the ancient legend of the Moonlight Kingdom. Though her demeanor appeared gentle, with doe-like eyes that reflected kindness, those who truly knew her recognized the unwavering determination that lay beneath her delicate exterior. "Your Highness, the midnight ceremony will commence shortly," whispered Ni Hantu, the second queen consort and Min-an's closest confidant. "Your father expects you to lead the moon prayer." Min-yan nodded, adjusting the silver diadem that crowned her raven hair. The royal palace of the Moonlight Kingdom was ablaze with celebrations, marking the Centennial Moon Festival, a time when the boundaries between the mortal realm and the spirit world grew thin. Courtiers in iridescent robes glided across the marble floor, their laughter mingling with the ethereal notes from crystal harps. "The court factions grow restless," Hantu murmured, her eyes darting toward a cluster of noblemen huddled in quiet conversation. "The Treasury Advisor seems particularly agitated tonight." Min-yan followed her gaze to where Treasury Advisor Tri Yuan stood, his thin lips pressed into a tight line as he conversed with several members of the inner council. Something about his demeanor unsettled her, the way his eyes constantly scanned the room, the nervous twitch of his fingers against his jade medallion. "Father believes the kingdom is flourishing, but I sense division growing stronger each day," Min-an said softly. "The traditionalists fear our kingdom's advancement, while the progressives push too hard, too fast." As the princess spoke, she failed to notice the subtle movement in the shadows above, a ripple in the darkness where no movement should exist. Only one person detected the anomaly, Imperial General Lok Tan, who stood at attention near the emperor's throne. His amber eyes, unusual among the kingdom's people, narrowed as he scanned the rafters. Emperor Doan Than rose from his silver throne, raising his hands to signal the commencement of the ceremony. "Citizens of the Moonlight Kingdom, we gather under the blessing of the celestial bodies that have guided our prosperity for a millennium." The moment stretched into perfect stillness, then shattered. A whisper of disturbed air was the only warning before a poison-tipped arrow sliced through the space, aimed directly at Princess Min-an's heart. In the split second that followed, General Lok Tan lunged forward with inhuman speed, his body intercepting the projectile. The arrow pierced his shoulder, but his momentum carried him forward as he drew his silver blade in one fluid motion, hurling it toward the shadowy assassin concealed in the rafters. A strangled cry echoed through the pavilion as the blade found its mark. The assassin's cloaking technology failed, revealing a figure dressed in midnight armor before they crashed to the marble floor. Chaos erupted. Guards swarmed the pavilion as Emperor Doan Than bellowed orders. Princess Min-an stood frozen, her eyes locked on General Lok Tan, who had collapsed to one knee, the poisoned arrow protruding from his shoulder. Blood, unnaturally bright, with threads of luminescent green, oozed from the wound. "General!" she cried, rushing to his side despite the guards attempting to shield her. "You saved my life." Lok Tan's amber eyes met hers, pain evident in their depths. "It is my duty, Your Highness," he managed before slumping forward, as royal physicians rushed to attend to the fallen general. Min-an caught a glimpse of Treasury Advisor Tri Yuan's face. Instead of shock or concern, his expression betrayed something else entirely: calculation, perhaps even disappointment. Before she could process this reaction, she was ushered away by her guards, but the image remained etched in her mind. That night marked the beginning of a bond that would transcend duty, tradition, and the very laws of nature itself. The dream came again, as it had every night since the assassination attempt. Min-an found herself standing in the grand pavilion, time slowing to an excruciating crawl as the arrow cut through the air. In the dream, she could see every detail with impossible clarity, the poison glistening on the arrowhead, the determined set of General Loc Tan's jaw as he threw himself into its path, the spray of his unusual blood as the arrow pierced his flesh. She awoke with a gasp, moonlight streaming through her chamber windows. A week had passed since the incident, yet the memory remained fresh, haunting her waking thoughts and sleeping mind alike. "Another nightmare, Your Highness?" Hantu's voice came from the doorway. The second queen consort often checked on Min-an during these restless nights. "The same one," Min-an confirmed, rising from her bed to pour herself a glass of water from the silver pitcher. "How is the general's condition?" Hantu's expression grew somber. "Worsening. I'm afraid the royal physicians are baffled by the poison. It seems to be designed specifically to target his unique physiology." Minyan had long suspected that General Loc Tan was different from others in the kingdom. His amber eyes, exceptional speed, and the strange luminescent quality of his blood had fueled rumors for years. Some whispered he was part of the ancient plant deities, beings who had once walked alongside humans before retreating into the sacred forest when technology began to dominate the world. "I wish to see him," Min-an declared, already reaching for her robe. "Your Highness, your father has restricted access to the healing chambers. He fears another attempt on your life." "Then we shall not use the main corridors," Min-an replied with quiet determination. "The old servant passages should suffice." Hantu hesitated only briefly before nodding. If anyone understood the princess's stubborn resolve, it was she. Navigating the hidden passages of the ancient palace, Min-an considered what she knew of the assassination attempt. The arrow had been crafted with masterful precision, the kind only possible from someone with extensive training in the Royal Archery Guild. Yet, access to the deadly poison suggested connections beyond the palace walls, perhaps to the sacred forest where such toxins could be harvested. The healing chambers were located in the eastern wing, bathed in perpetual moonlight through strategically placed skylights to enhance the healing properties of the treatments. 2 guards stood at attention outside the ornate silver doors, but they were stationed to watch the main corridor, leaving the servants' entrance unguarded. Slipping inside, Min-an was struck by the heavy scent of medicinal herbs and something else, a sweet, almost floral aroma that seemed to emanate from the still figure on the central bed. General Loc Tan lay motionless, his normally bronze skin now pallid, except for the area around the wound, which had taken on a disturbing blackish-green hue. The veins surrounding the injury were visible through his skin, glowing with the same luminescent quality as his blood had during the attack. "The poison spreads," came a raspy voice from the corner of the room. Min-an startled, turning to find an elderly man observing her from a wooden chair. She recognized him as Professor of Ancient Botany, the oldest member of the Royal Academic Circle, and rumored to be a keeper of knowledge predating the kingdom itself. "Professor," she acknowledged with a respectful nod, "can nothing be done for him?" The old man sighed, approaching the bed with measured steps. "Conventional medicine fails because General Loc Tan is not conventional himself. The poison was crafted specifically for his kind." "His kind?" Min-an prompted, though she had long suspected the truth. "Surely you've noticed. Your Highness, the general is a descendant of the plant deities, one of the last with direct lineage to the ancient beings who once shared this world with humans. The poison targets the chlorophyll in his blood, a substance humans do not possess." Minyan looked down at the general's face. Even in unconsciousness, his features remained noble, strong. He had served the kingdom faithfully for over a decade, rising through military ranks with unprecedented speed due to his tactical brilliance and combat prowess. "There must be a way to save him," she insisted. The professor's weathered face creased with hesitation. "There is one method, ancient and largely forgotten. The Blood Pact. I've read of it in the Forbidden Archives," Minnan said, surprising the old man. Few knew of her nighttime excursions to the restricted library sections. A binding of life forces. More than that, the professor clarified. The blood pact creates an unbreakable bond between savior and saved. It would require the poisoned area to be excised completely and replaced with a blood mixture from both participants. The ritual dates back to the earliest days when humans and plant deities coexisted harmoniously. And it would save him? Yes, but at a significant cost. The blood pact demands absolute loyalty from the saved to the savior. Your life essences would be intertwined. You would sense each other's emotions, physical pain, even share dreams. In the ancient texts, it is described as two souls dwelling in separate vessels. Min An's gaze returned to Lok Tan. He had unhesitatingly sacrificed himself to protect her. Could she do any less for him? "Teach me the ritual," she commanded softly. The professor's eyes widened. "Your Highness, the implications—" "He dies without intervention," she interrupted. "I will not allow that to happen when I have the power to prevent it." After a moment's hesitation, the professor nodded gravely. "The ritual must be performed under moonlight. We have until dawn." As the professor gathered the necessary elements for the ritual, Min An returned to Lok Tan's bedside, gently placing her hand over his. His skin burned with fever, yet somehow remained dry. "You will not die for me," she whispered. "Not today. Not ever." The ritual required silver implements, fresh water from the sacred spring, and blood freely given from both participants. The professor worked methodically, preparing a mixture of rare herbs in a silver bowl while instructing Min An on the ancient words she would need to recite. When midnight arrived, marking the strongest point of lunar influence, they began. The professor carefully excised the poisoned flesh from Lok Tan's shoulder, causing the unconscious general to groan in pain, despite his state. Min An winced, feeling his agony as though it were her own, a precursor to the bond they would soon share. She extended her wrist over the silver bowl, allowing the professor to make a precise incision. Her blood, rich crimson without any luminescence, flowed into the mixture. The professor then extracted blood from Lok Tan's uninjured arm, adding the glowing green-tinged substance to complete the concoction. The words, "Your Highness," the professor prompted as he applied the mixture to Lok Tan's wound. Min An placed her bloodied hand directly over the general's injury and began to recite the ancient language. The syllables felt strange, yet somehow familiar on her tongue, as though her very cells remembered a time when such rituals were commonplace. As the final word left her lips, a surge of energy coursed between them. Lok Tan's body arched upward, his eyes flying open, amber irises now illuminated from within by an otherworldly light. Min An gasped as foreign sensations flooded her consciousness, memories not her own, emotions she had never experienced. The strange sensation of photosynthesis occurring alongside normal human metabolism. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the surge subsided. Lok Tan collapsed back onto the bed, his breathing now steady and strong. The wound on his shoulder had closed, leaving behind a silvery mark in the shape of a crescent moon, the symbol of the blood pact. "It is done," the professor whispered, awe evident in his voice. "The blood pact is formed." Min An felt lightheaded, but stronger somehow, as though a part of her had been dormant until this moment. She could sense Lok Tan's presence in her mind, not thoughts exactly, but impressions, emotions, a constant awareness of his existence. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," the professor said gravely, "you are bound, forever." The implications of what she had done would not become fully apparent until much later. For now, Min An could only feel relief that the general would live, and a strange anticipation for what this new connection might mean for both of them. Morning arrived with a flurry of activity in the palace. News of the princess's unauthorized ritual spread quickly through the royal household, reaching Emperor Doanthan before Min An could explain herself. You have bound yourself to a subject through ancient magic, the Emperor thundered, when Min-an was summoned to his private chambers. Without consultation, without consideration for the political implications, Min-an stood tall despite her father's anger. I saved the life of the man who saved mine. Would you have preferred I let him die? There are protocols, traditions. General Lok Tan may be our finest military commander. But this blood pact, it creates complications we cannot afford. The conservative faction will see this as proof that you're unfit to rule after me. Perhaps traditions should evolve, Min-an countered. The blood pact is part of our kingdom's ancient heritage, from a time when humans and plant deities lived in harmony. The emperor's expression shifted from anger to concern. So it's true then. Lok Tan is one of them. He is both human and something more, Min-an confirmed. His ancestry gives him strengths that have served our kingdom well. Would you reject him now because of it? Doan sighed heavily, the weight of crown and kingdom evident in the slump of his shoulders. The world is changing too rapidly, daughter. The balance between ancient ways and modern progress grows more precarious each day. Before their conversation could continue, a royal guard entered with urgency. Your Majesty, General Lok Tan has awoken and is requesting an audience. Send him in, the Emperor commanded after a moment's hesitation. General Lok Tan entered with measured steps, his military bearing unchanged despite his recent brush with death. He wore a simple white tunic that contrasted sharply with his bronze skin, the silvery crescent scar visible at the edge of his collar. When his amber eyes met Min-an's, she felt a surge of emotion through their newfound bond, gratitude, confusion, and something deeper she couldn't yet name. Your Majesty, Lok Tan bowed deeply. Your Highness, I'm told I have my daughter to thank for your miraculous recovery, Emperor Doan said, studying the general carefully. I owe Her Highness my life twice over, Lok Tan replied. First for giving me purpose when I was a wanderer, rejected by both human and deity societies, and now for saving me from certain death. And this blood pact between you, do you understand its implications? Lok Tan's gaze returned to Min-an, and she felt his response before he voiced it. I do, Your Majesty. The ancient texts speak of it as the deepest bond possible between beings. I am now bound to Princess Min-an by forces beyond even royal decree. My life is hers. The Emperor studied them both for a long moment before speaking again. The assassin's body has been examined. The technology in his armor bears the signature of foreign infiltrators. But the bow and poison were crafted here, within our kingdom. An inside collaborator, Lok Tan concluded. Precisely. Someone with access to both royal archery training and connections to the sacred forest where such poisons are harvested. Min-an thought immediately of Treasury Advisor Tree One's suspicious behavior during the banquet. Father, I believe we should investigate. You will do no such thing, the Emperor interrupted firmly. You will remain under heightened security while General Lok Tan recovers fully. This matter will be handled by the Imperial Intelligence Division. Though she wished to protest, Min-an recognized the steel in her father's voice. For now, she would need to pursue her suspicions through less direct means. General, you are relieved of active duty until the court physicians declare you fit, the Emperor continued. However, given this unusual bond, you will remain as my daughter's personal guard during your recovery. I am honored, Your Majesty, Lok Tan replied with another bow. As they left the Emperor's chambers together, Min-an became acutely aware of Lok Tan's presence beside her, not just physically, but through the ethereal connection that now linked them. His emotions flowed into her consciousness like a gentle stream, relief at being alive, determination to fulfill his duty, and beneath it all, a complex swirl of feelings regarding their new bond. You should not have risked yourself for me, Your Highness, he said quietly when they were alone in the corridor. You did the same for me without hesitation, she reminded him. That was my duty. And saving you was my choice. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the bond between them intensified. Images flashing through Minan's mind. A young boy with amber eyes, shunned by human children. Years of solitary training in the sacred forest. The moment Loktan first pledged himself to the royal army, seeking belonging. You see glimpses of my past, he observed, surprised. And you of mine, she asked. He nodded. Fragments. Your secret visits to the forbidden archives. Your loneliness despite being surrounded by courtiers. The blood pact leaves little room for secrets, Minan said with a small smile. Perhaps that's not entirely unwelcome. Before Loktan could respond, Hantu approached hurriedly from the eastern corridor. Your Highness, there's something you must see. In the royal archery range. The three made their way through the palace grounds to the archery training facilities, a sprawling complex where the kingdom's finest archers honed their skills. Hantu led them to a secluded equipment room in the far corner of the complex. One of my handmaidens overheard two archers speaking of a hidden compartment, Hantu explained, as she pressed a specific sequence on what appeared to be a solid wall. A panel slid open, revealing a small cache of weapons, including arrows identical to the one that had struck Loktan. The craftsmanship is distinctive, Loktan observed, carefully examining one without touching it. These were made by Master Archer Vin. The Emperor's personal archery instructor? Minan asked, surprised. Yes, but he hasn't been seen since the night of the assassination attempt, Hantu added. The official explanation is that he's on a training expedition, but none of the other archers were informed of such plans. Through their bond, Min-An could sense Loktan's growing suspicion. Master Vin and Treasury Advisor Tri Yuan were often seen in deep conversation during council meetings, he said. I thought little of it at the time. We need to find Master Vin, Min-An decided, and discover what connection he has to Tri Yuan. Your father ordered you to remain under protection, Loktan reminded her. Min-An's eyes sparkled with determination. And I will be, under your protection, General. The Emperor didn't specify where we should remain. Loktan's disapproval radiated through their bond, but alongside it, Min-An sensed reluctant admiration for her cleverness. The blood pact compels me to follow your lead, he conceded. But we proceed with caution. Their investigation began in the royal archives, where records of all palace personnel were meticulously maintained. Hantu, using her status as second queen consort, obtained access while Min-An and Loktan waited in a secluded study room. Alone together, an awkward silence fell between them. Min-An could sense Loktan's discomfort, not with her specifically, but with the intimacy their bond created. You've spent your life maintaining emotional distance, she observed. This connection unsettles you. He looked up, surprised by her directness. My dual nature has always made true belonging impossible. Humans see me as other. The plant deities consider me diluted. Emotional distance was a necessity, not a choice. Yet you chose to serve the kingdom. The military values results above origins, he replied simply. My abilities made me useful. Is that all you desire, to be useful? Min-An asked. The question hung between them, stirring emotions that flowed across their bond. Before Loktan could answer, Hantu returned with a thick folder. Master Vin's records, she announced, spreading the documents on the table. His official residence is within the palace complex, but he also maintains a cabin near the border of the sacred forest. A convenient location for someone trafficking in rare poisons, Loktan noted. It's also where he reportedly conducts specialized training for elite archers, Hantu added, including private sessions with certain council members. Tri Yuan? Min-An asked. Hantu nodded. Monthly appointments for the past year. A treasury advisor with no military duties has no need for archery training, Loktan said, his suspicion deepening. especially not in such a secluded location. We need to visit this cabin, Min-an decided. Tonight. As darkness fell, Min-an prepared for their clandestine expedition. She changed from her royal attire into a simple dark tunic and trousers that would allow for easier movement. Hantu helped her braid her long hair into a practical style, concern evident in her every movement. "This is dangerous, Your Highness," Hantu cautioned. "If those behind the assassination learn of your investigation—" "They already want me dead," Min-an replied grimly. "At least now I'm pursuing them rather than waiting for the next attempt." "The general's abilities make him a formidable protector," Hantu acknowledged. "And this blood pact between you, it's unprecedented in modern times." Min-an touched the spot over her heart where she could feel the phantom echo of Lok Tan's silvery scar. The ancient texts describe it as a sacred bond, yet modern society views it as primitive magic. Perhaps we've lost more than we've gained in our rush toward technological advancement. A gentle knock announced Lok Tan's arrival. He too had dressed for stealth, his military uniform replaced by dark attire that emphasized his athletic build. Through their bond, Min-an sensed his readiness, both physical and mental, for the task ahead. "The palace guards have been given false information about our whereabouts," he reported. "We have until morning before questions arise." They departed through the servant passages, emerging in the royal gardens where swift cycles, sleek vehicles powered by a combination of technology and botanical energy, awaited them. Lok Tan's amber eyes seemed to glow in the darkness as he assessed their surroundings for potential threats. "Stay close," he instructed as they mounted the vehicles. "The forest paths can be treacherous after dark." The journey to the sacred forest border took them beyond the gleaming silver spires of the capital and through the outer agricultural zones, where massive bioengineered crops provided sustenance for the kingdom. As they approached the ancient tree line that marked the beginning of deity territory, the air grew thick with an almost palpable energy. "The forest recognizes your plant heritage," Min-an observed, feeling the forest's reaction through their bond. "It welcomes you." "And regards you with curiosity," Lok Tan replied. "It senses our connection." They located Master Vin's cabin, nestled against the massive trees, its design blending natural wood and modern materials in the distinctive style of the kingdom's architecture. No lights shone from within, and the surrounding area appeared deserted. "Wait here while I confirm it's empty," Lok Tan said, dismounting his swift cycle. "The blood pact works both ways," Min-an reminded him, already following. "Your duty to protect me is matched by my commitment to stand beside you." Though he wanted to protest, she could feel it through their bond. Lok Tan recognized the determination in her voice. Together, they approached the cabin, moving silently through the underbrush. The interior revealed a space divided between domestic living and what appeared to be a sophisticated laboratory. Equipment for crafting arrows occupied one wall, while glass containers filled with various plants and compounds lined another. A large desk dominated the center, covered with documents and digital tablets. "He left in haste," Lok Tan observed, noting the half-eaten meal on a side table. "Recently, too." Min-an approached the desk, activating one of the tablets. "Financial records," she murmured, scanning the information. "Large transfers from an encrypted account to Master Vin over the past 6 months." Lok Tan examined the laboratory equipment. "These compounds match the poison that nearly killed me. He was mass-producing it, enough for multiple assassination attempts." A sudden rustle outside froze them both. Through their bond, they simultaneously registered the presence of multiple individuals surrounding the cabin. "Imperial forces," Min-an whispered hopefully. Lok Tan shook his head, his expression grim. "Mercenaries. I recognize their movement patterns." No sooner had he spoken than the cabin's windows shattered, projectiles emitting dense smoke pouring through the openings. Lok Tan moved with superhuman speed, pulling Min-an behind the heavy desk as the first attackers breached the door. "Stay down," he commanded, drawing a concealed blade from his boot. His body began to change subtly, skin hardening to a bark-like texture, eyes glowing more intensely in the smoke-filled room. The first attacker fell to Lok Tan's blade before they could fully enter. The second managed to fire a stun weapon, the electrical charge dissipating harmlessly against Lok Tan's transformed physiology. Through their bond, Min-an felt his combat instincts surge. Not the cold calculation of a trained soldier, but something more primal, connected to his plant deity heritage. More attackers poured in, their advanced weapons suggesting resources beyond common mercenaries. Lok Tan fought with graceful efficiency, each movement precise and devastating. Yet the sheer number of opponents forced him gradually backward toward Min-an's position. "We need to reach the swift cycles," he said between strikes. "I'll create an opening." "Together," Min-an insisted, rising from her protected position with a stun baton she'd found in the desk drawer. "The blood pact gives me access to your combat instincts. I can feel them." Before Lok Tan could object, she moved to his side, her movements echoing his fighting style with surprising effectiveness. The blood pact flowed between them, creating a synchronized defense that allowed them to steadily advance toward the shattered doorway. As they neared escape, a familiar figure appeared in the doorway, Treasury Advisor Tri Yuan, his thin face twisted in a cold smile. "Princess," he greeted with mock courtesy. "How unfortunate to find you interfering in matters beyond your understanding." "Treason is quite within my understanding, Advisor," Min-an replied sharply, "as is attempted murder." Tri Yuan's smile didn't waver. "Political necessity, rather. Your progressive ideas threaten the traditional power structures that have maintained our kingdom for centuries." "You mean the structures that have maintained your wealth and influence," Lok Tan countered, positioning himself slightly ahead of Min-an. "The hybrid speaks," Tri Yuan sneered. "How fitting that you've bound yourself to this abomination, Princess. It only confirms your unfitness to influence the throne." Through their bond, Min-an felt Lok Tan's momentary pain at the slur, a lifetime of similar rejections compressed into a single, sharp emotional spike. Her own anger flared in response. "General Lok Tan has served this kingdom with more honor than you could comprehend," she said, her voice cold with royal authority. "Your conspiracy ends now." Tri Yuan laughed. "Does it? My associates in the council have already begun spreading word of your blasphemous blood pact. By morning, half the court will be calling for your removal from the succession. The other half will join them when they learn you've been consorting with forest-dwelling rebels." "Rebels?" Lok Tan questioned. His attention momentarily divided between the advisor and the remaining mercenaries who had formed a loose circle around them. "The plant deities grow tired of exile," Tri Yuan explained with casual malice. "They seek to reclaim their place in the kingdom, by force if necessary. Master Vin has been a most useful intermediary in our negotiations." Min-an processed this information quickly. "You're playing both sides, undermining the royal family while pretending to negotiate with the deities." "Politics requires flexibility," Tri Yuan replied with a shrug. "Unfortunately, your interference necessitates more direct action." He raised his hand, signaling the mercenaries to advance. What happened next occurred too quickly for normal human perception. Lok Tan's body underwent a more complete transformation, his skin fully hardening into protective bark, vines extending from his fingertips to create natural weapons. With one arm, he swept Min-an behind him. With the other, he released a cloud of golden spores that filled the cabin. The mercenaries staggered, their respiratory systems overwhelmed by the powerful sedative effect of the spores. Tri Yuan, alone, seemed prepared, pulling a filtered mask from his pocket and securing it over his face. "Your deity tricks won't save you," he snarled, drawing an elegant pistol from beneath his robes. "This weapon fires projectiles coated with the same poison that nearly killed you before. Your princess cannot save you a second time." Before he could fire, Min An stepped out from behind Lok Tan, her eyes blazing with determination. You misunderstand the blood pact, advisor. It doesn't just bind the general to me, it binds us to each other. As she spoke, her own transformation began, subtle but unmistakable. Her skin took on a faint luminescence, and when she raised her hands, energy crackled between her fingers, the same energy that flowed through the sacred plants of the forest. Through their bond, Lok Tan's surprise and wonder washed over her. This development was unprecedented, a human manifesting plant deity abilities through the blood pact. Tree Yuan's confidence faltered. Impossible, he whispered, his finger tightening on the trigger. Lok Tan moved to intercept, but Min An was faster. The energy between her fingers coalesced into a shield of pure light that deflected the poisoned projectile back toward its source. It grazed Tree Yuan's arm, the poison immediately taking effect as he collapsed to the floor, his weapon clattering beside him. How? Lok Tan asked, as the danger momentarily passed. The mercenaries unconscious from his spores, and Tree Yuan incapacitated by his own poison. The blood pact is more profound than either of us realized, Min An replied, examining her hands as the luminescence slowly faded. The professor spoke of two souls in separate vessels, but perhaps it's more accurate to say the vessels themselves begin to change. Outside, the sound of approaching vehicles signaled new arrivals. Through the cabin's broken windows, they could see the distinctive silver uniforms of the Imperial Guard. Someone informed them of our location, Lok Tan observed. Han too, Min An guessed. She wouldn't let us face danger without backup. As the Imperial Guard secured the area and took the unconscious mercenaries into custody, Min An and Lok Tan explained the conspiracy they had uncovered. Tree Yuan, revived but weakened by the poison, was placed under heavy guard for transport back to the capital. Your father will not be pleased that you disobeyed his orders, the guard captain warned Min An. Perhaps, she acknowledged, but he will be pleased that we've exposed a plot against the throne. As dawn broke over the forest, painting the ancient trees in golden light, Min An and Lok Tan found themselves sharing a moment of quiet before returning to the palace. Standing at the forest's edge, they could feel the awakening energies of the plant world responding to the sunlight. The forest calls to you more strongly now, Lok Tan observed. As it has always called to you, she replied. Another aspect of our shared existence. He turned to face her fully, his amber eyes studying her with new understanding. The blood pact has changed you, given you access to abilities no human has wielded in centuries, and given you something you've sought your entire life, she said softly. Belonging. The truth of her words resonated through their bond. For the first time, Lok Tan allowed his emotional barriers to fall completely, and Min An felt the full force of his gratitude, his loyalty, and something deeper taking root between them. Something neither was ready to name, but both recognized. We should return, he said finally. There is much to explain, and more conspirators to identify. Min An nodded, but as they turned toward their vehicles, a rustling from the deeper forest caught their attention. From between the massive trees emerged a figure unlike any Min An had seen before. Humanoid, but clearly not human. With skin like polished mahogany and hair composed of delicate flowering vines. A plant deity, Lok Tan whispered, automatically moving to protect Min An. The being raised a hand in a peaceful gesture. I am Dao, elder of the sacred grove. We sense the activation of the blood pact, the first in many generations, and then this disturbance at our borders. Elder Dao, Lok Tan acknowledged with a respectful bow. I am. We know who you are, child of two worlds. The deity interrupted gently. We have watched your journey with interest, and now you have formed the sacred bond with a daughter of the royal line. History repeats itself in unexpected ways. What do you mean? Min An asked. Dao's eyes, entirely green with no pupils, regarded her thoughtfully. The first blood pact was between a plant deity and the first ruler of your kingdom, Princess. It was intended to forever unite our peoples, yet time and fear drove us apart. This revelation struck both of them with equal force. Through their bond, a shared realization flowed. The kingdom's very foundation rested on the same connection they now shared. Treasury Advisor Triuan claimed to be negotiating with your people, Lok Tan said. He spoke of rebellion. Dao's expression darkened, the flowers in their hair closing slightly. Some among us grow impatient with exile. It's true. Triuan exploited this, promising a return to prominence while actually planning to use us as scapegoats for his coup. Then our peoples stand at a crossroads once again, Min An observed, with the potential for either renewed conflict or reconciliation. Indeed, Dao agreed. And you two, bound by the ancient ways yet embracing the new, stand at the center of this turning point. The deity extended a hand toward them, a small seed materializing on their palm. This is a night glass flower seed. It blooms only in the presence of true harmony between our kinds. Plant it in the royal gardens. Its growth will reflect the healing of old divisions. Min An accepted the seed, feeling its latent energy pulse against her skin. We will nurture it as we nurture the renewed connection between our peoples. Return to your father's court, Dao advised. The conspirators must be dealt with before healing can truly begin. But know that the forest watches, and waits, and hopes. With these words, the deity retreated into the trees, leaving Min An and Lok Tan with new purpose and deeper understanding of their bond's significance. The return to the royal palace was met with a mixture of relief and tension. Emperor Doan Than, upon hearing of his daughter's adventure and the conspiracy she had uncovered, oscillated between paternal worry and royal approval. You directly disobeyed my orders, he admonished when they were brought before him in the throne room, and uncovered a plot that threatened your reign and the kingdom's stability. Min An countered. Treasury Advisor Triuan has already implicated 3 other council members in his scheme. The emperor sighed, his stern expression softening slightly. Your mother had the same disregard for personal safety when pursuing what she believed right. It seems you've inherited more than her appearance. From his position beside Min An, Lok Tan maintained perfect military bearing, though through their bond, she could sense his unease at being at the center of court attention. Whispers circulated among the assembled courtiers about the blood pact, about his hybrid nature now openly acknowledged, about the princess's rumored manifestation of deity abilities. General, the emperor addressed him directly. My intelligence officers confirm your actions saved my daughter's life twice over. The kingdom owes you a debt. I require no payment beyond the honor of service. Your Majesty, Lok Tan replied formally. Nevertheless, Emperor Doan Than continued, your unique heritage, which you have kept private these many years, now stands revealed. I would hear from you directly. Where do your loyalties lie? The question hung in the air, loaded with centuries of distrust between humans and plant deities. Min An felt Lok Tan's momentary hesitation through their bond, not from uncertainty about his answer, but from the weight of representing both worlds. My loyalty is to this kingdom and its people, all its people, he finally answered. I believe in Emperor Doan Than's vision of progress that honors tradition. And now, through the blood pact, I am bound to Princess Min An by forces more profound than any oath of military service. The emperor studied him intently before nodding. Well spoken. This blood pact between you, while unexpected and perhaps precipitous, may serve a greater purpose than any of us initially realized. Min An stepped forward. Father, we encountered a plant deity elder at the forest boundary. They revealed that the first rulers of our kingdom were bound to their people through the original blood pact. Our histories have been incomplete. Murmurs swept through the throne room at this revelation. The emperor himself appeared momentarily shaken before regaining his composure. "Is this true?" he asked Professor of Ancient Botany, who stood among the court scholars. The old man nodded slowly. "The oldest texts make reference to such a bond. Your Majesty, many records were lost during the Great Technological Revolution 3 centuries ago, when our people turned away from natural magic toward mechanical advancement. So the division between our kingdom and the sacred forest was not the natural order, but a deviation from it." Min-an completed her father's thought. "The blood pact between General Loc-Tan and myself has reawakened ancient possibilities. I've experienced abilities that connect me to the plant world, just as the general has always been connected to humanity, despite his dual heritage." The emperor rose from his throne, addressing the full court. "For too long, our kingdom has been divided, not just from our forest neighbors, but within ourselves. Traditionalists fear change, while progressives dismiss the wisdom of the past. Triuan and his conspirators sought to exploit these divisions for their own gain." He descended the silver steps to stand before his daughter and Loc-Tan. "Perhaps this blood pact, formed in a moment of necessity, offers us a model for reconciliation on a larger scale." Taking Minan's hand, he placed it within Loc-Tan's larger one. "The princess and the general, symbols of what we might become when we embrace both our technological achievements and our natural heritage." Through their bond, Minyan felt Loc-Tan's surprise at this public endorsement, followed by a surge of determined pride. Their fingers intertwined as they faced the court together. "The blood pact will be recognized as a sacred bond," the emperor declared, "and General Loc-Tan elevated to the rank of imperial protector, with all rights and privileges thereof." The pronouncement effectively silenced the court's whispers, replacing them with contemplative silence. It was a bold move, elevating a hybrid to one of the highest positions in the kingdom. But the emperor had always understood that leadership sometimes required reshaping tradition rather than merely following it. In the days that followed, the full extent of Triuan's conspiracy unraveled. Several high-ranking officials were implicated, along with foreign agents who had supplied advanced technology for the assassination attempt. Master Vin was apprehended trying to flee the kingdom, his testimony providing further evidence of the plot's complexity. Throughout the political turmoil, Min-an and Loc-Tan's bond continued to develop in unexpected ways. During private moments in the royal gardens, where they had planted Elder Dao's nightglass seed, they explored the extent of their shared abilities. "Focus on the energy flow," Loc-Tan instructed, as Min-an attempted to manifest the luminescent shield that had protected them in the cabin. "It follows the same pathways as blood in your veins, but operates on different principles." Under his guidance, Min-an gradually gained control over her new abilities. Likewise, through their connection, Loc-Tan discovered aspects of his hybrid nature previously unavailable to him: greater emotional intelligence, enhanced communication with plant life, even the ability to temporarily appear fully human when diplomatic situations required it. "We complement each other," Min-an observed one evening as they sat beside the freshly turned earth, where the nightglass seed lay dormant. "Your strengths address my weaknesses, and mine yours." The ancient texts describe the blood pact as creating something greater than its individual parts. Loc-Tan replied thoughtfully, "I never truly understood what that meant until now." Their quiet moment was interrupted by the arrival of Han-Tu, who approached with purpose in her stride. "Your Highness, General, the Emperor requests your presence. Emissaries from the sacred forest have arrived at the palace gates." They exchanged a surprised glance before following Han-Tu to the grand entrance hall. There, Emperor Doan-Than stood in formal attire, surrounded by advisors who appeared both curious and apprehensive. "Elder Dao has sent representatives," the emperor informed them quietly. The first official delegation from the plant deities in over 2 centuries. They specifically requested your presence. The massive silver doors opened to reveal 3 plant deities, each unique in appearance, yet sharing the unmistakable characteristics of their kind. Plant-like skin textures, eyes of solid color, movements that seemed to flow like branches in a gentle breeze. They carried no weapons, instead bearing gifts of luminescent flowers and crystallized tree sap, traditional offerings from their culture. The sacred grove extends greetings to the Moonlight Kingdom, the lead deity announced in a melodious voice. We come seeking dialogue, inspired by the renewal of the blood pact between our worlds. Emperor Doanthan performed the traditional welcome, but it was to Minyan and Loktan that the deities turned their attention. The seed of reconciliation has been planted, the lead deity said, gesturing to the faint glow that had begun to emanate from the garden where the night glass seed rested. Already it responds to the harmony you represent. What followed was a historic meeting in the Imperial Council chamber, where for the first time in generations, humans and plant deities discussed their shared past and possible future. Min-An and Loktan served as natural intermediaries, their bond pact allowing them to bridge cultural and biological differences with unprecedented ease. Our peoples once shared governance of this land, Elder Dao's representative explained. Humans with their innovation, deities with their connection to the natural world. The blood pact between rulers symbolized this partnership. Until fear and ambition drove us apart, the emperor acknowledged. A division that has weakened both our societies. Through careful negotiation, a framework for renewed cooperation began to take shape. The sacred forest would gradually reopen its borders to human visitors, while the kingdom would incorporate deity representatives into its governing council. Most significantly, the ancient practice of blood pacts, modified to be less permanent for diplomatic purposes, would be revived as a means of creating mutual understanding between selected individuals from both societies. As the discussions concluded for the day, the lead deity approached Min-An and Loktan privately. Your bond has catalyzed changes beyond what either of you could have imagined, they observed. Yet the greatest challenges lie ahead. Not all on either side welcome reconciliation. We've already faced opposition, Min-An acknowledged, thinking of the whispers that still followed them through the palace corridors. And we'll face more, the deity warned. The path you walk requires not just courage, but vision. The ability to see beyond immediate conflicts to the world you wish to create. A world where division gives way to harmony, Loktan said. Where differences are celebrated rather than feared. The deity smiled, their flower-petal lips curving upward. You speak as one already. The blood pact works its deepest magic. They extended a hand, revealing a small vial of glowing liquid. This essence, when added to the night glass seed, will accelerate its growth. The flower, when it blooms, will amplify the abilities granted by your bond. You may need this advantage in the days to come. Min-An accepted the vial, sensing its potent energy. Thank you for your guidance. That night, after adding the essence to the planted seed, Min-An and Loktan stood together on her private balcony, watching as stars appeared above the silver spires of the palace. Through their bond flowed a complex mixture of emotions, hope for the future they envisioned, concern for the obstacles they would face, and a deepening personal connection neither had anticipated when the blood pact was formed. The court expects me to eventually make a political marriage, Min-An said quietly, giving voice to thoughts that had been growing in both their minds. To strengthen alliances with neighboring kingdoms. A logical expectation for a princess, Loktan replied, his tone carefully neutral, though she could feel his unease at the subject. Yet the blood pact binds us in ways more profound than any marriage ceremony. It does not give me claims beyond my station, Your Highness. Min-An turned to face him, noting how the moonlight illuminated the strong lines of his face. After all we've shared through the bond, you still maintain such formality?" A hint of a smile touched his lips. "Old habits. Discipline has been my shield when belonging nowhere else." "You belong here," she said simply, reaching up to trace the silver crescent scar visible at his collar. "With me." The touch sent ripples through their bond, intensifying the connection between them. For a moment, the barriers Lock-Tan had maintained throughout his life, between his human and deity heritage, between his duty and desires, wavered. "What we've begun changes everything," he said softly. "Not just for us, but for the kingdom, perhaps for the world. It's larger than any personal considerations. Or perhaps personal connections are precisely what will heal the larger divisions," she countered. "The blood pact began as a personal sacrifice, your life for mine, my blood for yours. Everything that has followed grew from that moment." Before he could respond, a sudden surge of energy pulsed through their bond. Both turned instinctively toward the garden, where a brilliant glow emanated from the spot where they had planted the night glass seed. Moving together, they hurried down to investigate. The seed had not only germinated, but grown with supernatural speed. A slender stalk rose 3 feet from the ground, crowned with a tightly closed bud that pulsed with silver-blue light. As they approached, the bud responded to their presence, unfurling slightly to reveal crystalline petals. "It responds to our bond," Lock-Tan observed, kneeling beside the plant. "The essence has accelerated its growth, but it's our connection that guides its development." Min-An joined him, extending her hand toward the flower. The moment her fingers touched a petal, a vision flashed through their shared consciousness. The kingdom, as it might be. Humans and deities working in harmony. Technology and natural magic blended to create marvels neither could achieve alone. "A possible future," she whispered. "Not guaranteed, but attainable." The vision faded, leaving them with renewed purpose. Whatever personal feelings might be developing between them, whatever obstacles lay ahead, the path they had stumbled upon offered hope, not just for themselves, but for generations to come. "Your Highness, General." Hantu's urgent voice cut through their moment of connection. She hurried across the garden, her expression grave. "Armed insurgents have breached the eastern palace wall. They bear the insignia of Tree-One's house." "The conspiracy continues," Lock-Tan said grimly, immediately shifting to combat readiness. Even with Tree-One imprisoned, his followers move forward with their plans. "My father?" Min-An asked anxiously. "Safe in the secure bunker," Hantu assured her. "But the invaders are heading this way. They seem to be targeting you specifically." Through their bond, battle strategies flowed from Lock-Tan's military experience into Min-An's consciousness. Simultaneously, her diplomatic insights informed his tactical considerations. Without needing to discuss it, they formed a unified plan. "We need to reach the Night Temple," Min-An decided, referring to the ancient, sacred space at the heart of the palace complex. Its architecture bridges human design and natural formations, the perfect place to demonstrate the power of our unity. Lock-Tan nodded in agreement. "Hantu, alert the loyal guards to form a perimeter around the temple. We'll draw the insurgents there, away from civilians." As Hantu departed to carry out these instructions, Lock-Tan and Min-An returned to the night glass flower. It had continued to unfurl during their conversation, its petals now fully open and radiating intense energy. "The flower is reaching maturity far faster than Elder Dao indicated," Lock-Tan observed. "It's responding to the imminent threat." Min-An carefully broke the stem, lifting the luminous bloom. "Then it shall be our standard as we face this challenge." Together, they made their way through the palace corridors, avoiding the main hallways where sounds of conflict echoed. Their bond allowed them to move with perfect coordination, sensing danger before it appeared and choosing their path accordingly. The Night Temple stood at the junction of the palace's 4 main wings. Its silver dome opened to the sky to allow moonlight to flood the circular chamber within. Ancient columns carved with intertwining human and plant deity figures supported the structure, their artistry a testament to the harmony once shared between the two peoples. As they entered the sacred space, Min-an placed the night glass flower in the central altar basin, where its glow intensified, sending beams of light dancing across the carved reliefs on the walls. The temple, dormant for generations, seemed to awaken to their presence, the silver inlays in the floor beginning to pulse with responsive energy. "They come," Loktan said quietly, sensing the approaching insurgents before they appeared. Min-an stood tall beside him, no longer just a princess, but a symbol of what their kingdom could become. "Then let us show them the true power of the Blood Pact." The insurgents burst through the temple doors. A dozen heavily armed figures led by a woman, Min-an, recognized as Triwan's niece, her face contorted with vengeful determination. "The princess and her half-breed pet," she sneered. "How fitting that you sought sanctuary in this relic of a misguided past." "This temple represents the foundation of our kingdom," Min-an replied calmly. "A truth your uncle sought to erase from history." "A truth that died centuries ago," the woman countered. "The natural order demands separation between species, between classes. Your progressive ideals threaten everything that makes our kingdom strong." "Strength through division is an illusion," Loktan stated, his voice resonating with unusual authority in the sacred space. "True power comes from harmony." As he spoke, his transformation began, not the partial change seen during combat, but a complete expression of his dual nature. His skin hardened into bark-like armor while maintaining human flexibility. His amber eyes glowed with internal light, and from his shoulders extended branch-like structures that formed a protective canopy. Simultaneously, Min-an underwent her own transformation. The abilities she had gained through the Blood Pact manifested fully, her skin taking on the same luminescence as the night glass flower. Her royal robes seeming to merge with her body to create a flowing, living garment of light. Through their bond flowed power, unlike anything either had experienced before. Loktan's plant deity heritage amplified by Min-an's human spirit. Her royal bloodline enhanced by his natural magic. The night glass flower, at the center of the temple, responded to this union, its glow expanding outward to form a dome of protective energy. The insurgents faltered, their weapons suddenly seeming primitive against the manifestation before them. Yet Triwan's niece urged them forward, her hatred overcoming her fear. "Kill them, for the purity of the kingdom!" What followed was not the battle the insurgents had anticipated. As they attacked, Min-an and Loktan moved in perfect synchronization, their defensive maneuvers flowing like an elaborate dance. Rather than striking lethal blows, they systematically disarmed their attackers, using their enhanced abilities to neutralize rather than harm. Vines grew from the temple floor to entangle weapons. Shields of light deflected projectiles. The air itself seemed to respond to their will, carrying insurgents away from them without causing injury. "We will not perpetuate the cycle of violence that has divided our kingdom," Min-an declared as the last insurgent was subdued. "Even those who oppose us deserve justice, not vengeance." Only Triwan's niece remained defiant, drawing a concealed blade and lunging directly at Min-an. Loktan moved to intercept, but through their bond, Min-an conveyed a different intention. Instead of defending physically, she projected a wave of pure empathy through the Blood Pact, allowing her attacker to momentarily experience the connection that bound princess and general. The woman froze mid-strike, her eyes widening as foreign emotions and understanding flooded her consciousness. The blade clattered to the floor as she fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the experience. What was that?" she gasped. "The truth your uncle feared," Min-an answered gently. "The power of connection rather than division." As Imperial guards secured the subdued insurgents, Emperor Doanthan arrived with his entourage, including the plant deity emissaries. They paused at the threshold of the temple, awestruck by the transformation of both the space and the bonded pair at its center. "The night temple awakens," one of the deities whispered reverently. As it was foretold, the emperor approached his daughter and Loktan, taking in their transformed appearance with wonder rather than fear. "When I endorsed your blood pact, I never imagined this, nor did we, Father," Minan replied, her voice carrying harmonic undertones that seemed to resonate with the temple itself. "But perhaps this is what our kingdom has been moving toward all along, a return to its true founding principles." As she spoke, the night-glass flower's energy pulsed outward in a final wave, its light spreading beyond the temple to touch every corner of the palace complex. Where it passed, dormant silver inlays in architecture awakened, revealing patterns and symbols that connected human structures to the natural world. A hidden language of unity that had always been present but forgotten. "The ancient bond between our peoples was never truly broken," the lead deity observed, "merely dormant, waiting for the right catalyst to reawaken it." The emperor looked from his transformed daughter to the general who had saved her life, then to the subdued insurgents being led away. "Every ending is a beginning," he said thoughtfully. "Perhaps the time has come for me to consider a new role for you both." In the weeks that followed, momentous changes swept through the Moonlight Kingdom. The full extent of Triyuan's conspiracy was exposed, revealing decades of systematic efforts to suppress knowledge of the kingdom's dual heritage. Ancient texts were recovered from hidden vaults. Technology was reimagined to work in harmony with natural energies, and diplomatic channels with the sacred forest were fully restored. Throughout these changes, Min-An and Loktan remained at the center, their bond pact serving as both symbol and practical demonstration of the new path forward. Though they gradually learned to control their transformations, returning to more conventional appearances for day-to-day activities, their connection remained undiminished. 2 months after the Night Temple incident, Emperor Doanthan summoned them to the throne room for a private audience. The aging ruler had been contemplating major decisions, evident in the new lines that marked his noble face. "The kingdom stands at a crossroads," he began without preamble. "For a millennium, we have followed a single model of governance, a human monarch ruling from a central palace. But our origins tell a different story." He gestured to ancient scrolls spread across a table beside the throne, recovered texts that detailed the original partnership between humans and plant deities. "The first rulers of our land governed from 2 seats of power, the Silver Palace for human concerns, and the Sacred Grove for matters of natural harmony. They were bound by the Blood Pact, ensuring neither could act without considering the welfare of both societies." Min-An and Loktan exchanged a glance, their bond humming with shared realization of where this conversation was heading. "Father, are you suggesting a return to our foundational governance?" the emperor confirmed. "Not an exact replica of the past, but a new model informed by ancient wisdom. 2 regents, 1 human, 1 hybrid, bound by the blood pact and dedicated to reuniting what has been divided." He stood, removing the silver circlet that symbolized his authority. "I have ruled long enough to see both progress and regression. The time has come for transformation more profound than one man can oversee." With ceremonial gravity, he approached his daughter. "Princess Lam Min-An, I name you regent of the Silver Court, with authority over human affairs and technological advancement." Turning to Loktan, he continued, "General Loktan, I name you regent of the Living Court, with authority over natural harmony and relations with the sacred forest. Together, bound by the Blood Pact, you will lead our kingdom into a new era." The magnitude of this pronouncement left them momentarily speechless. Through their bond flowed a complex mixture of honor, apprehension, and resolute determination. This is unprecedented in modern times, Minan finally said. The conservative factions will resist. Some will, her father acknowledged. Others have already been swayed by what they witnessed in the Night Temple. Change never comes without resistance, but neither does it wait for unanimous approval. What of your role, Your Majesty? Loktan asked. A smile softened the Emperor's features. I shall serve as advisor to the dual regency, while devoting myself to the recovery and restoration of our kingdom's complete historical record. The future needs firm roots in an accurate understanding of the past. The formal announcement of the dual regency came during the next full moon, in a ceremony that united traditions from both human and plant deity cultures. Representatives from the sacred forest stood alongside nobility from the kingdom's provinces, witnessing the installation of the new governance model. As Minan and Loktan took their ceremonial positions, she upon the traditional silver throne, he beside a newly constructed living throne fashioned from a magically sustained ancient tree. The blood pact between them visibly manifested as threads of silver-green light connecting their hearts. The blood pact that once saved a life now sustains a kingdom, the ceremony master declared. 2 courts, 2 traditions, 1 shared future. When the time came for the new regents to address their people, Minan and Loktan rose together, their movements perfectly synchronized through their bond. People of the Moonlight Kingdom, citizens of the sacred forest, Minan began, her voice carrying across the Grand Plaza where thousands had gathered. Today, we honor our past by embracing a future of unity. For too long, we have been divided, human from deity, technology from nature, progress from tradition. Loktan continued. These false dichotomies have weakened all that we might become. The blood pact between us represents more than personal connection, Minan explained. It symbolizes the bond that must be reformed between all aspects of our society. We do not ask you to abandon your identities or beliefs, Loktan assured the crowd. Rather, we invite you to expand them, to recognize that difference need not mean division. Together, they raised their hands, releasing a shower of light that blossomed into the image of a night glass flower above the plaza. From this day forward, the Moonlight Kingdom and Sacred Forest are one realm with 2 hearts, beating in harmony for the prosperity of all. The crowd's response was thunderous, though not unanimous. Pockets of silence revealed those not yet convinced, those who would require demonstration rather than declaration to accept this new path. Later, as twilight descended on their first day as regents, Minan and Loktan stood on the boundary between palace and forest, at the site where the original night glass flower had bloomed. New growth had sprouted from its roots, suggesting that in time, an entire garden of the magical plants might flourish. The beginning of a journey, not its conclusion, Loktan observed, his amber eyes reflecting the last rays of sunlight. A journey neither of us anticipated when you threw yourself in front of that arrow, Minan replied with a gentle smile. Fate works in curious patterns. Not fate alone, he corrected, taking her hand in his. Through their bond flowed a depth of emotion that no longer needed to be hidden or denied. Choice, sacrifice, commitment. The blood pact may have connected us, but what we've built upon that foundation comes from deliberate action. Minan nodded, understanding completely. And what we build from here will require countless more choices, many of them difficult, made easier by facing them together, Loktan said softly. As darkness fell, the border between palace grounds and forest seemed to blur. Silver moonlight and bioluminescent plant life, creating a continuous glow that symbolized their new united realm. From this boundary line, they could see both their pasts and potential future. The silver spires of human achievement, the ancient trees of natural wisdom, and between them, endless possibilities for harmonious innovation. Through their blood pact, Each sensed the other's unwavering resolve, mixed with private vulnerabilities. The bond that had begun as survival necessity had evolved into something far more profound, a connection that would guide not just their governance, but their personal journey together. The moon rose higher, bathing them in silver light that activated the luminescence in both their transformed biologies. In that glow, they sealed their commitment with a gesture that bridged human tradition and plant deity ritual, foreheads touching, breath mingling, energy flowing freely between their bonded souls. The blood pact that had saved a life now sustained a kingdom, and in time might heal a world.